Okay, you wake up one morning, scroll through your feed, and see a headline that stops you mid-swipe. Caitlin Clark should quit the WNBA. Wait, what? That's not just dramatic. That's nuclear. Caitlin Clark, the literal face of women's basketball right now, being told to step away from the very league that was supposed to be her launch pad? Yeah, it's not just a sports story anymore. It's a full-blown cultural meltdown. Let's rewind. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. Just months ago, Caitlin Clark was riding the wave of one of the most dominant and electrifying college careers we've ever seen. Like, ever. Records shattered. Crowds doubled. Merchandise sold out in minutes. This woman had the kind of gravitational pull most leagues would kill for. She was a human highlight reel, a walking ESPN alert, and a revenue machine in sneakers. So when she announced she was going pro, the WNBA should have been doing cartwheels. This was their moment, their chance to go mainstream, capture the casual viewer, maybe even snag that elusive primetime respect. But what they got instead, a slow-motion disaster. Because the moment Caitlin Clark stepped on a WNBA court, the game changed, and not in a way anyone expected. Almost immediately, the tone shifted. The coverage became less about basketball and more about bruises. Elbows thrown, shoves ignored, hard fouls brushed off like they were part of the game plan. And Clark? She kept getting up. She kept playing. But the bruises weren't just physical. They were symbolic. They told a story of a league unprepared for its own success and maybe, just maybe, resentful of it. The truth? Clark wasn't just a player. She was a disruptor. Her arrival forced a spotlight onto a league that's been fighting for relevance for years, and not everyone was thrilled to be under that microscope. Overnight, everything changed: media attention, ticket prices, sponsorship dollars. And for better or worse, it was all tied to her. But instead of rallying around their new star, protecting her, promoting her, elevating her, what did the league do? Nothing. Let me be clear. The WNBA had one job: protect your investment. Instead, they left Clark out there to fend for herself like it was open season. Game after game, the hits kept coming. And I'm not just talking about rough defense. I'm talking about cheap shots that would have sparked suspensions in literally any other league. The refs? Silent. The league office? Crickets. And fans? They started to notice. Loudly. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Sports analysts who never care about the WNBA were suddenly tuned in, and not in a good way. Everyone was asking the same question: why is the league letting this happen to Caitlin Clark? Then came the injury. We don't need to go into graphic details, but it was bad. Bad enough that Clark, who lives and breathes basketball, made the call to step back until April. No overseas play. No grinding through injury. No sacrificing long-term health for short-term ratings. Just pause. And that's when the panic set in. Because suddenly, the WNBA had to face a cold, uncomfortable truth. Without Caitlin Clark, things fall apart. Ratings tanked. The All-Star Game pulled in numbers that looked more like reruns of Storage Wars than a nationally televised sports event. Ticket sales flatlined. Merch sales dropped. The energy evaporated. It was like someone yanked the power cord out of the wall. And the league couldn't hide from it anymore. This wasn't just about one player getting hurt. It was about an entire infrastructure being exposed. An ecosystem so reliant on one star that her absence turned the whole operation into a ghost town. If that doesn't make you shiver a little, it should. Fans started asking even bigger questions. Like, what kind of league allows its biggest asset to be treated like a punching bag? Why isn't there better officiating? Better marketing? Better support? And where the hell is the commissioner? Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA's head honcho, has found herself under fire, and not the fun kind. Critics are calling her out for allowing the league's golden goose to get brutalized on national TV, for failing to step in, and for watching ratings collapse without a plan B. One sports site even joked that Clark was the league's emergency exit strategy and the fire extinguisher all in one, which would be funny if it wasn't painfully true. Meanwhile, Clark? She's resting, strategizing, playing chess while the league is still fiddling with checkers. Her decision to pause is already being called one of the smartest power moves in recent sports memory. Because here's the thing, it's not about weakness, it's about longevity. She knows her worth. She knows the WNBA needs her a whole lot more than she needs them. And for someone still in her early 20s, that's a level of self-awareness you don't often see in pro sports. She could have pushed through, played injured, maybe dropped a few more viral highlights. But instead, she hit pause, chose legacy over limelight, health over headlines, respect. But the internet, being the internet, had thoughts. Some fans applauded her maturity. Others, shockingly, and not in a good way, called her a quitter, said she couldn't handle the heat, that she didn't deserve the hype. There were even think pieces accusing her of not being tough enough for the league. Right? Because protecting your body and choosing not to be a human punching bag is weak? Give me a break. This is the same league that's been begging for more coverage, more sponsorship, more fanfare. And now that they finally have it, they can't seem to keep their house in order. It's not just a Clark problem. It's a lead problem. And now, with her gone, they're scrambling. Meanwhile, corporate sponsors are hitting pause of their own. Brands that once rushed to be on the right side of history are quietly pulling back, citing performance concerns and shifting interest. Translation? Clark's not playing, so we're not paying. Ouch! But let's talk about what this all really means. The Caitlin Clark situation didn't break the WNBA. It revealed it. It peeled back the layers and showed us a league that, despite decades of work and undeniable talent, still doesn't know how to protect or promote its stars. It showed us a leadership team more reactive than proactive. It showed us a fan base torn between loyalty to the league and loyalty to the one player keeping it afloat. And most of all, it showed us that one woman, barely a rookie, carries the weight of an entire sport on her shoulders. That's not empowerment. That's exploitation. Clark stepping back should have been a moment of collective concern, a time to reevaluate policies, officiating standards, player support systems. But instead, it turned into a PR circus, a flashpoint for debate, and honestly, a little bit of a witch hunt. Because that's what happens when you put all your eggs in one basket and then drop the basket. Now here we are in the aftermath. The league is wobbling. Fans are angry. Sponsors are nervous. And Clark? She's probably sipping tea somewhere, plotting her next move. And you know what? Good. Because when she does come back, and she will come back, it won't just be a return. It'll be a reckoning. The kind of comeback that makes headlines, sells tickets, and maybe, just maybe, forces the WNBA to finally get its act together. Will they learn from this? TBD, but they'd better. Because this wasn't just a blip. This was a warning shot. Caitlin Clark isn't the problem. She's the proof. Proof that fans will show up. Proof that women's sports can break into the mainstream. But also proof that one player can't fix a broken system alone. So to the folks saying she should quit, you're missing the point. She's not quitting. She's resetting the whole damn game. And when she walks back onto that court, the league better be ready. Because the next time she saves the WNBA, it better be on her terms. Until then, let's give out a few fake awards, shall we? Most oblivious leadership goes to the WNBA front office. Best disappearing act goes to Commissioner Engelbert. And MVP of keeping the lights on still belongs, without question, to Caitlin Clark. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the league can bounce back without her? Or is this the beginning of the end? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Because trust me, we've got more drama to unpack. And this was just the first quarter. All right, so you're still here, still trying to wrap your head around this whole Caitlin Clark mess, huh? Same. Because the more you peel back the layers of this WNBA drama lasagna, the more you realize this isn't just a Caitlin Clark story. This is about a system that got caught flat-footed, a league that begged for the spotlight, and then stood there like a deer in headlights the moment the cameras actually showed up. Let's get something straight. This woman did everything right. She came in with historic hype, sure, but she backed it up, game after game. She brought the views, the jerseys, the headlines, the debates on cable news. She made people care, not just about her, but about the league, about women's sports on a level we haven't seen in decades. And what did she get in return? Elbows to the ribs, cold shoulders, and crickets from the people in charge. Now, if this were a movie, this is the part where the wise men character would swoop in and be like, this isn't personal, it's just how the game works. But that's the thing. It is personal, because this isn't just about sports anymore. It's about how we treat women when they become too successful, too visible, too powerful. The backlash to Caitlin Clark? It's not just about basketball. It's about what happens when a woman takes up space that was never designed to hold her. Let's talk about the vibe shift. Remember when she first entered the league? It was electric. Every game felt like an event. Courtside seats sold out. Social media couldn't shut up. Even people who hadn't watched a WNBA game in years were suddenly checking scores and Googling team names. It was like she cast some kind of spell, and for a hot second, the league felt unstoppable. But then resentment started creeping in. You could see it in the way other players talked about her in interviews. The subtle shade, the half smirks, the "she still has a lot to learn" comments that felt more like warnings and advice. And okay, sure, rookie hazing is part of sports culture, but this wasn't the playful welcome to the league type of stuff. This felt like punishment, like the league was hazing her fans, too. And look, this isn't about pitting players against each other. There's room for all kinds of greatness in the league. But if you're the WNBA and you're finally getting the mainstream attention you've been screaming for, maybe, just maybe, you don't publicly alienate the person who brought it to your doorstep. Just a thought. Because here's what they forgot. The casual fans, the ones who were just starting to tune in because of Clark, they weren't watching for team loyalty. They weren't watching because they loved a specific franchise. They were watching her. And when she got sidelined, literally and figuratively, they walked away, not out of spite, but because the magic was gone. That's the risk you take when you build your house on one pillar. Let's pause here and hand out another honorary award. Most self-sabotaging league rollout. Because honestly, Caitlin Clark's debut season should have been a victory lap, a celebration. Instead, it turned into a slow burn implosion. And it all happened in real time, right in front of us. You ever throw a party and then forget to invite the guest of honor? That's what this season felt like. And when the guest finally showed up, everyone acted annoyed that she was getting too much attention. But let's pivot to what really sent the internet into meltdown mode. The fact that Caitlin Clark decided not to go overseas during the break. And look, this is the part where we get into the real absurdity. Because in case you didn't know, most WNBA players have to play overseas during the off-season just to make a living. Yeah, the same league that wants to be taken seriously in the sports world also pays its athletes so little that they're hopping flights to Turkey and Russia just to stay financially afloat. But Clark? She's in a different bracket. She has endorsement deals, sponsorships, a college legacy that turned her into a brand before she ever touched a professional court. She doesn't need to play year-round for scraps. And for some people, that's apparently unforgivable. The backlash was swift and weird. Accusations of entitlement, claims that she wasn't paying her dues, as if taking care of your body and not risking further injury is some kind of betrayal. Like, sorry, is the goal not to have a long career? Or are we still pretending that grinding yourself into early retirement is the only path to respect? The irony here is painful. Clark is doing exactly what male stars have done for decades. Protect their image, control their schedule, invest in their health, and own their brand. But when she does it, suddenly it's selfish. Suddenly it's quitting. And I hate to say it, but if you know, you know. Let's zoom out for a sec. This league has needed a reckoning for a long time. Between a lack of marketing, the inconsistent officiating, and the media apathy, it's been limping along, kept alive more by die-hard fans and structural support. And when someone like Clark finally kicks the door down and says, let's make this big, the league should have been rolling out the red carpet. Instead, they handed her a folding chair and told her to find a seat, if there's one left. But here's the kicker. Caitlin Clark will come back. Stronger, smarter, and more dangerous than ever. And when she does, the same people who wrote her off will be the ones reposting her highlight reels. That's how this works. Because say what you want about her play style, her media coverage, or her fan base, one thing you can't deny? She changed the game. Period. She made people care. And she's not done yet. So where does that leave the WNBA? Honestly, at a crossroads. They can keep pretending this is business, as usual. Keep letting refs swallow their whistles. Keep letting egos drive a narrative. Keep putting out statements instead of solutions. Or they can evolve. They can embrace the new era, not fight it. Protect their stars. Promote their stories. And for the love of all things basketball, start thinking like a modern entertainment brand. Because this isn't just about sports anymore. This is about legacy. About who gets to lead. About whether women's leagues are ready to truly level up, or they're going to stay stuck in a strange loop of almost but not quite. The Caitlin Clark saga is the ultimate case study in mismanagement. A generational talent was handed to the league on a silver platter, and they didn't even bother to grab a fork. And now, they're starving. At this point, Caitlin Clark has effectively hit pause on her own meteoric rise. Not because she's incapable, not because she's crumbling under pressure, but because she's the only one with the clarity to realize that pushing forward in a broken system only burns you out faster. Meanwhile, the WNBA is still sitting there like, wait, why aren't things working anymore? It's almost hilarious. If it weren't so deeply frustrating. Let's talk about why Clark stepping away caused such a seismic shift in the league. Because it wasn't just the loss of a star player. It was the loss of momentum, of hope. People thought she was going to single-handedly drag the WNBA into the mainstream. And the truth is, she almost did. But you can't carry an entire institution on your back when that institution won't even meet you halfway. We saw the numbers. The second Clark went down an announcer break, ratings nosedived, ticket sales tanked. Social media buzz dried up like someone hit the mute button. The All-Star game was supposed to be a celebration of the best talent in the league. And yet, without her, it played out like an awkward open mic night. You could feel the energy drop. But here's where it gets interesting. Because instead of acknowledging the obvious, that Clark's presence was a rocket fuel behind the sudden burst of national attention, some people within the league and media started to spin it differently. She wasn't that important. The hype was overblown. The league existed before her, and it'll be fine without her. Cool. So let me get this straight. She's not that important. But the second she takes a break, the league starts wheezing like it just ran up a flight of stairs? Make it make sense. You can't have it both ways. You can't minimize her influence and simultaneously panic when she's gone. That's not protecting the league. That's protecting egos. And if there's anything this situation has exposed, it's the dangerous grip of ego behind the scenes. See, there's this unspoken tension in the WNBA that a lot of fans pick up on. A discomfort with fame. A mistrust of visibility. Like, if one player becomes too big, it somehow threatens the idea of team unity. And sure, basketball is a team sport, but it's also entertainment. And entertainment needs stars. You think the NBA didn't capitalize on Jordan? On LeBron? On Steph? The league practically ran marketing campaigns around their faces. And guess what? It worked. Viewership exploded. Merch flew off the shelves. Entire eras of basketball were defined by single players. But when Caitlin Clark becomes that figure for the WNBA, suddenly it's unfair. Suddenly it's a media agenda. Let's just call it what it is. Discomfort with change. Caitlin Clark represented a seismic shift, not just in gameplay, but in perception. She brought in new fans, casuals, men who never cared about women's sports before, women who hadn't watched since college, kids wearing number 22 to practice, and corporate sponsors hungry to finally dip their toes into the WNBA pool. She was a bridge. And instead of reinforcing that bridge, the league basically handed her a hammer and said, build it yourself. Imagine that. The WNBA finally gets the crossover star it's been waiting decades for, and they throw her into the deep end without a life jacket. And look, Caitlin isn't dumb. She saw what was happening. She saw the toll it was taking on her body, her image, her mental well-being. And she knew, if she didn't stop now, she might not get another chance. So she did the unthinkable. She chose herself. And let's just take a second to appreciate how revolutionary that move is in professional sports, because the culture doesn't exactly encourage self-preservation. It glorifies pushing through pain, playing injured, leaving it all on the floor, even when it means you're dragging your ACL behind you. But Clark flipped the script. She said, "I'm valuable, and I'm not going to wreck myself for a league that won't even call a foul when I get body checked." She said, "I'm building something bigger than one season, and I'm not going to let it burn out before it begins." She said, "No." And that is what really sent people spiraling. Because we're not used to seeing young women in sports claim agency like that. We're used to seeing them say yes. Yes to everything. Yes to the grind. Yes to the pain. Yes to being grateful for crumbs. But Clark didn't come to nibble. She came to eat. And now that she's taken a step back, the league is forced to ask itself the question it's been avoiding. What now? Because here's the truth. Caitlin Clark will return. And when she does, the fanfare is going to be enormous. ESPN will run montages. Brands will launch new ad campaigns. Nike will probably have a whole "she's back" line ready to go. But if the WNBA hasn't changed, if the officiating is still garbage, if the stars are still getting clobbered with no calls, if the marketing is still stuck in 2009, she might not stick around. That's the part nobody wants to say out loud. But it's real. The WNBA is standing at a cliff. On one side, transformation, the chance to finally break into the mainstream, grow its audience, and thrive. On the other side, a slow fade into irrelevance, where every breakout star eventually gets disillusioned and bounces. The Caitlin Clark era doesn't have to be a fluke. It could be the beginning of a golden age. But only if the league does the work. Fix the officiating. Stop letting stars get battered like it's Fight Club. Create a pipeline for new talent to rise alongside Clark. Stop treating attention like a threat and start treating it like the opportunity it is. Because Clark isn't the enemy. She's the engine. And here's what I hope happens next. I hope the league watches this offseason spiral and learns. I hope someone in the front office looks at those declining numbers and says, "Okay, maybe we screwed up." I hope referees are retrained, that protection is prioritized, that the culture shifts from resentment to recognition, because there's still time. The season isn't over forever. It's just paused, just like Caitlin. And when she comes back, we'll all be watching, not just to see how she plays, but to see what the league does with her. Will they finally rise to the occasion, or will they fumble the bag one more time? Only time will tell. But one thing for sure, the next chapter is going to be loud.